Hey everybody, welcome to the Ballet Rising videocast. Tonight we have a really special guest coming to us from the UK. She's an incredibly wonderful dancer, having danced with the Zurich Ballet, the Norwegian National Ballet, Boston Ballet, and the English National Ballet. On top of all of that, she graduated with honors from Harvard University and has her PhD in atomic and laser physics from the University of Oxford. Let's welcome Merritt Moore. And welcome to the Ballet Rising videocast, Merritt Moore. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Casey, for having me here.
Yeah, cool. So you're in the UK right now, in London?
Yeah, in London, they just started shutting everything down. All the bars, all the restaurants, companies, theaters, everything's closed. They were debating about the parks, but so far that's stayed open.
Oh, they got to keep the parks open. That's because, London is like Amsterdam. It's the only place where you can go to get a breath of fresh air. So we got to keep the parks open, especially on beautiful days like this. The UK and Holland get pretty gray, so got to take advantage of that.
As you can see, staying outside as much as I can.
I know. I was like, maybe I should do this from outside as well because it's beautiful here in Holland as well. So let's talk a little bit about you, because you are one of the most incredibly fascinating human beings I've ever met.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm just really excited to have you on this video cast. I think there's just a lot to talk about, and you have such an incredible amount of experience and insight into various things. So yeah, I'm just really excited to talk to you. So you're originally from the US, right?
Yeah, originally born and raised in Los Angeles.
Cool.
And I started dancing late at 13, so never being a professional ballet dancer was just not on the books at all.
Oh my
God. It was like academics all the
way.
way. Yeah.
I didn't realize you started so late, but we'll get into that a little bit further, but you had an impressive career for someone who started quite late.
It's been a challenge.
To say the least. So you grew up in California, and then where did you study ballet?
So I had started, it started with like a bribe from my mom, like I wanted to do karate, and she was like, let's fix your posture first. So there was a couple Russian teachers in Los Angeles. Around 15, I decided to quit. I was like, everyone told me I could never make it to be a ballet dancer. And I was putting so much work into it because I loved it.
Yeah.
And at a point I was just like, why am I putting all this work into it if I'll never make it? So I just kind of left. I went to Italy for a school year abroad.
Wow.
And there is when I found a teacher who really changed my whole life. And she took me under her wing. I stayed at her place, woke up at 6 a.m., class. Then she taught me privately for 2 hours. And then I would stay with her, for the following 6 years, every break.
Yeah, that's cool. For some people, I'm kind of the same type of person. When you tell me I can't do it, that's when I'm like, I think I'm going to do it then.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's when I had the trigger, was that they were like, and then, I just found the passion again. I was like, yeah, so my going ever since then is like, why not?
Yeah. Push it.
Why isn't it possible?
Yeah, for sure. So, so where in Italy were you studying?
It was a tiny town called Viterbo. So
Okay.
before I went, I looked up, I was like, is there dance in Viterbo? And it was like, no. I was like, I'm going, right? I just needed a break. But then once I was there, I think I felt so confined I felt like ballet was trying to make us all be perfect. And that there was this ideal that I could never be. And this teacher, Irina, she told me, she's like, look, stop beating yourself up to be perfect. Perfect is replaceable. Being unique individual is irreplaceable. And so for every tendu, every kind of port de bras, I really felt like, man, I'm going to do it my way. There is this form and this elegance to ballet, but you can do everything. So she would make me do this passe, it was going through I don't know, deep mud, or it was everything had to have just some oomph to it. And that's why, and then my love for ballet took off from there.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I always tell all of my students to give every movement a purpose.
Right.
I never think that there's a movement that is just there for being there. Everything you do has a purpose, so treat it like it has a purpose and give it its value. But also, I also try to impress on all of my students not to, I mean, we want perfection, we want technique, but it's not about the perfection of technique. It's about how you move. And people get
Yeah.
stuck on the technique that they get very stiff and they forget that it's actually dancing we're doing. We're not just
Yeah.
hitting perfect poses, we're dancing, we're moving. If you get too stuck on that technique, you forget how to move, and really
Yeah.
and that's what it's all about, really. It's movement.
Right.
So yeah,
It's
that's
that excellence. I think there's just needs to be like just remembering that we're all striving for excellence,
yeah.
and obviously improving the technique improves that excellence, but it's not limited to the perfect technique.
Exactly. And I think that's the best I've ever heard somebody put it. That's, yeah, that's it. Oh, nice. So then from there, did you go into, because you've danced with a lot of really incredible companies throughout your career, English National Ballet, Norwegian National Ballet. I was going through your CV at
Zurich and
times.
Boston.
Uh,
Yeah.
Boston Ballet, and
My first company was Zurich. Yeah.
Zurich, that's it. I mean, those are four
Yeah.
really impressive companies. So to have danced with those companies is like, okay, yeah, you did well.
Yeah, it was a lot of hard work because, yeah, after high school, thinking I would never dance professionally, I went to Harvard to study physics. And during that time, again, I was like, I'm never dancing again, like threw away the point shoes. And then I think I was like 19. It was my sophomore year of college. I read somewhere that like Paloma Herrera was like 16 and a principal dancer. And I was like, I'm so old, like I'll never make it. Like, and so then at that point, it was just like all or nothing. I auditioned 25 companies that year.
Wow.
On top of Harvard physics workload. Like
Yeah.
the amount of studying I was doing was, I was taking 4 classes. Each of those classes took 20 hours to finish the problem sets due every week. So I was doing 80 hours of physics a week, and then somehow dancing, trying to, like I wasn't sleeping very much.
Yeah.
I would tell myself to sleep more. If anyone's a student, sleep more.
Yeah.
Just learn it faster.
I mean, if you're a professional ballet dancer, there's only so many hours in the day, and on top of it, studying physics at Harvard is like, this is just, when I heard your story, because I met you in London when you were dancing with English National Ballet. And I was like, oh, what a nice dancer, really cool girl. You seemed really cool. We didn't get to know each other that well, but when I learned about your story later, the fact that you were studying physics at Harvard, and then we'll get to the other education in a bit, but I was like, holy cow, this woman is amazing. And I started reading your CV, and then I saw the documentary on the BBC about you, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is just really special. So so yeah, so you started off in Boston Ballet, or no, you said your first company was
it was Zurich. Yeah, it was a lot of no's, I would say. Like each audition, auditioning 25 companies was like, no. I got 24 no's, which was understandable because A, I'd started so late. B, would never gone to like a real ballet school, but I was using each of those auditions to kind of learn. It was like boot camp. Because A, I would push so much harder for an audition than I would in normal class.
Yeah.
2, the stuff that they were giving me, I just quickly had to pick up. I was like, oh, I've never done that before. Just,
trial by error.
Yeah, exactly. And so each time I just got better and better. And then through it all, what I recommend for young dancers is I was, reading every single sports psychology book.
Nice.
Like every sports psychology book, every kind of speech, even how to deliver a speech. Mm-hmm. They give you tips, and I was using that for in the ballet studio.
Yeah.
Like it would tell you how to stand when you give a talk. And so I figured out, I was like, that's how I'm going to stand when I'm waiting my turn.
So true. It's so
true.
Yeah, take note, kids, because this is how it's really done. If at first you don't succeed, try again, even if it's 24 times. The 25th one might work. And the best thing in the world is to always use each and every one of those as a learning experience. Don't think, oh, I failed 24 times. Think I succeeded once. And that's sometimes all you need, and just keep pushing each time, and use each one of them as a stepping stone towards the next. I think that's one of the smartest things people can do. And then also studying psychology on top of it. I did a little bit of studying psychology as well. I studied a lot of body language and things like that. And it really helped me with my acting, actually. I really took all of that body language and things and put that into my character on stage, and it really helped a lot. So there's just so many different things that you can apply from the outside world to your dance career, as well as your dance career to the outside world. They're so interchangeable if you really understand how to do things.
Exactly. That's so true. And in that point of like making it a lesson, because I think, there's so many no's and a lot of people get discouraged, as you said. But in my head, I was like, okay, even if I do 1,000 auditions and I never make it, by golly, I'm going to be a better person at the end of this. Right? So, right? Like, by golly, I'm going to learn how to be more generous. I'm going to use the psychology. I'm going to learn like how to use body language. So even if at the end of the day, I don't make it to a company, it's going to have been worthwhile, Yeah. So I think that point of like making it it's a stepping stone for not just what you might think your dream is, but life in general.
Yeah, for sure. Nice. So then after Zurich, where did you go from there?
After Zurich, I was getting pressure from the academic front of, look, if I want to be a physicist, I need to quit ballet. And they're kind of like, you did it. Look, you made it to a company. Quit ballet, do it. Also, at the end of that year, my ankles were kind of, I was kind of hurting physically. And so it wasn't as fun anymore. Like when you're hurting and having to do ballet, it's just, it's so rough. And so they invited me back to another year, and I had to decline. And I decided, I was like, look, I'm quitting dance. And I went back and just did physics. But I realized like 3 months in, A, my grades were dropping. B, just my energy and motivation to wake up in the morning had left. Like my passion, my exchange with friends, everything had got lost when I also dropped dance. So I started dancing again, like very slow, like reluctantly at first. I was like, okay,
Hard at first.
But and college was amazing because there were so many performing opportunities. So I would get to perform like Trey McIntyre or Twyla Tharp Sinatra Suite or Balanchine's Apollo. So in performing, you just get in shape and you get good. And then Boston Ballet needed a dancer. I was for La Bayadere and Nutcracker. And so I asked Harvard again. I was like, hey, is it okay if I take off another half a semester? And they're totally cool. They're like, yeah, just email us when you want to come back.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I had the same with Harvard. They were like, yeah.
Just email us.
Right.
But that's why I'm very appreciative to them. And I think colleges in general in the US is they tend to have this open mind that your experiences will make you a better human.
Yeah.
Not just what you learn in the classroom.
I think that's so true. The life is a classroom, and the more life experience you get, the more you can apply those lessons that you learn in the classroom and so on. That's really, really, that's really cool.
Whether the ballet classroom or the academic classroom, that's for sure.
Yeah, wherever you are, you're always learning and experiencing, so put it to good use.
Yeah. So then did the La Bayadere and Nutcracker. And at the same time, though, I was like hustling because I was still running these experiments at Harvard. So it's like funny episodes where I'm like, matinee show, like, it's 1,000 costume changes for Nutcracker. And then like the costume changes would just continue because then I would have to like run in a cab and go to the lab, and I would get down, I'd have to scurry down to the basement, and it would take a retina scan of my eyes and be like, welcome, you have been detected. And I enter this room and I have to put on the full clean room and the face mask and the gloves to go work in the lab, and then change out of that and get in the tutu and the blue tights and do the evening show and back in the lab at night. It was a bit like, I was like, oh my God, it's so much exercise just changing the whole thing.
Right.
But then again, I was like, okay, I'm going to be a good physicist. I'm going to quit dance again and just focus on physics. Again, the grades dropped. Again, motivation dropped. Again, everything just dropped.
Wow.
So then I decided, I did my PhD. That's when I decided, I was like, oh, I'm doing my PhD, University of Oxford in atomic and laser physics. And when I was there, the experiment was broken and it was going to take them 2 months to fix it. And I was still training and dancing. And then English National Ballet needed dancers for Nutcracker and Swan Lake. And that's when I ended up being like, peace lab, like, you guys sort out while we wait for this guy to come and fix it, I'm gonna go dance. And that's where we met.
Yeah, because I was just there for Nutcracker and Swan Lake as well.
Right.
Popping in over from Amsterdam, half injured. But yeah, that was a wild trip.
So the injuries, it's the injury game as well, navigating that.
Yeah. Wow. So, and then you're still studying at Oxford, or no? You've graduated. You have your PhD.
Graduated, yeah, doctor. So graduated 2 years ago, and then it was quite risky to decide to do my PhD during, the prime years of dancing career. But there's that why can't I dance later was my mentality, was my thought. But I was a little bit nervous once I graduated. I was like, oh, did I just shoot myself in the foot and never be able to dance again? And so then Norwegian National Ballet, actually, amazingly, this is the one time where I had to laugh, was, Ingrid, the director of Norwegian National Ballet, was like, we don't normally really audition people, except that you had a PhD in physics. And so to know that my PhD in physics got me in the door to at least audition. Yeah. I was like, it's fine. Yeah. And that was amazing. That was for 6 weeks for Swan Lake, and then they invited me back again for Swan Lake, and then back again for Swan Lake, and then back again for Triple Bill and Swan Lake and Le Dare, and then again for Le Dare. So it's been an amazing time there. And then, the physics side, doing this duet with this robot, like still with my physics stuff.
Yeah, those were cool pictures. Is that the ones from the photo shoot?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a famous collection of photos of you dancing with some machinery in a studio.
Yeah,
they're great photos. And it's really cool. So now I saw recently you are studying to get your pilot's license. How's that going?
With this coronavirus, it's not really going.
Yeah.
It's a little bit on pause, but that's okay. I think I really do believe that, you can do everything, but not all at the same time. And at the moment, during this time, then you just need to shift things around, right? So applying to be an astronaut, and that's, my dream. And so been pursuing the piloting license, but that is a little bit on hold, but it doesn't mean that it's going away.
Well, I mean, things will clear up eventually. Hopefully we're not going to be
just a little bit grounded here.
Yeah.
Can't really go anywhere.
Just for a bit. No, but what I think is just, it just keeps building. I mean, the more I learn about you, the more I dive into your story. It just keeps building and building and building and building. And so the pilot's license is a prelude to becoming an astronaut.
Yeah.
I mean, so with Ballet Rising, I mean, our whole purpose is to talk about ballet around the world outside of the traditional places. But, it's really about the spread of ballet into new frontiers. And so the whole time I was building this project, and it was just sort of like, where around the world is ballet growing and rising, and why, and stuff like that. And then I started thinking about you and your story, and I thought, this is someone who's actually taking ballet out of this world. And I thought, wow, I mean,
Yeah.
that's incredible. It's gonna be the first
It's
time
funny.
in outer space, and I'm like, I know you. It's so amazing. So that is going to be really, really exciting to watch. And there's been, you were on a TV show for a little while.
Yeah, so my desire to be an astronaut kind of opened up when I was doing my PhD, and I found out that BBC was looking for astronaut candidates for a show called Astronauts, Do You Have What It Takes? But it was led by the commander of the International Space Station, former commander of the International Space Station, Chris Hadfield. And you go through legit astronaut training. And it was the most nerve-wracking, exhilarating, exhausting, but also just the best time that I've ever had. What they did is, we had to drop off our phones, computers, and they just kind of took us, and we didn't know where we were going. We didn't know what was the next day or what was happening that day. And, first day they throw us one by one in an actual helicopter to hover. We have to not, and it was like, oh my God. Helicopters are just insane things to navigate.
But what I found was that, yeah, the ballet training was such an advantage, because as dancers, we're taught, the show must go on no matter what's thrown your way. I mean, I'm sure you've had 1,000 episodes on stage where, like, you're just like, really? Oh my God. Like, everything's gone wrong. From the costume to the floor to the orchestra, like, yeah. But the show has to go on. And so it was the same where they would be throwing things at me, like, you have to dock the Soyuz to the International Space Station, and they throw you a curveball, and it was just like, okay, we're gonna make this happen. Like, yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. Who knew ballet training might be good for astronauts?
No, but to all the dancers out there, you're ready.
Yeah, it is great training for a lot of different things. I mean, I think dancers are way better under pressure than most people because of that aspect. I mean, there is literally that feeling of the show must go on. Like you said, I had a 22-year career of dancing in most of the opera houses around the world, and I've seen a lot of things happen on stage. And you're like, no, not now. And especially when you're the lead dancer, you're the one who has to really pick it up and carry it on.
And you have to carry you're leading it. And that's another thing. It's like that leadership as well, and supporting those around you. So.
Yeah, exactly. Building the team, but just having having the ability to just sort of carry on, move on, to lead everybody, show them that we're where we're going, what we're doing. Just the curtain hasn't come down, but we'll power outages, you name it. We had a big major premiere of Swan Lake in Seattle, and I was talking about this on the podcast video cast the other day, and the power went out in the middle of a premiere. It's like, okay, yeah, fun stuff. But
power out. Oh my God.
So let's switch gears here a little bit, and let's specifically talk about what's happening as far as coronavirus in the UK right now. You guys aren't on full lockdown, are you?
No, not well. Everything's closed, but we can still walk. Like, we're not. Yeah, they're not police patrolling the streets yet.
Okay, yeah. So it's probably similar to here in Holland. Actually, I walked around yesterday and things were quite normal. Everyone kind of keeps their distance. We walk around each other. I usually keep people, 2-3 meters away from me at best. I only wear my gloves outside. So, you see little things like that, but in general, like the store shelves aren't empty anymore. They're all pretty stocked full. People are kind of out walking around. Here we have restaurants open, but only for takeout. So kind of a bit normal, but a little bit weird and eerie. I think, as far as I understand, the UK is a bit similar. And there's lots of big stimulus packages coming out, and governments are announcing stuff. I think I saw something about the UK for the first time in history will be paying people's wages. So that's impressive. yeah, I don't know how sustainable that is, but I hope that we can pull out of this somehow.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Anything else about specifically about the UK or?
Well, I think, it's a time where things are going to change, right? And I think that, yes, some governments are going to help artists out, but some aren't. Like, if I'm a freelance, right? So I'm not under that. But I think with anything, there's going to be change and challenges, but there's always something
Yeah.
that one can be doing, to improve oneself, to be ready for when it does change, when this lifts, or like, and I think just being innovative, like, even, and what I'm kind of grateful for is, it was so difficult going from physics to dance and physics and dance, and so many times where there were moments then when I was like, you know what, I don't want to be fully at the whim of a director to either like me or not in order to have a job. After so many auditions, I was like, look, some people like chocolate, some people like vanilla. This director might like chocolate, I might be vanilla. It doesn't mean I'm less sweet, but there was throughout my career, I've very much been like, how do I be in control as much as possible? How do I create things myself? Hence the dancing with the robots, hence the, collaborating with friends to make film, hence collaborating with friends to make, music videos, or writing a book. Like, during this time, like, I just submitted 4 book proposals on Thursday. Now working on, like, how are we going to make online content? Like, what does dance in the future look like? Not just relying on what it has been in the past and like moping about it, I think would be it's like, it's going to be a huge change.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to feel scary at times, but it's just such an opportunity to really kind of like, now we're forced to walk around quietly and not interact, which is when our brain can come up with the best ideas for brainstorming. It's like writing down, okay, what's missing right now? What do I need personally? What does the world need? Like, how can I provide that? Like, what would I like myself in my day to day? And then, or seeing, there's what's needed, and then writing those problems down, and then, taking time to kind of be like, okay, it's like a puzzle. Like, what's an opportunity to solve this puzzle? Right. Yeah. So it's going to look different. I think companies are going to look different, understanding the online space, understanding that when this comes off, everyone's going to want to like hang out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm just going to be like, give me a hug. Kind of
yeah. It'll be really interesting to see people's reaction when all of this sort of does start to clear up a little bit. I think at first
it'll be like a year-long party.
Well, people do get very hesitant at first, because I think we'll still have some minor outbreaks here and there once it's crested. But yeah, once it's fully gone, I think people are gonna be hugging like crazy. But I think moving forward for everyone right now, adaptability is key, because everything is going to change from now on. We're and a lot of things are going to change for the better. Some of the things that are changing for the worse are going to take a little bit of time to smooth out. I compare a lot of this to September 11th. I remember after September 11th, people were like, oh, this is going to change everything. And it did, but then life got back to normal at a certain point. Some things are still with us after September 11th, but in a lot of ways we kind of got, it became the new normal. And adaptability and everything is,
I think, knowing that it will be, like, life will go on, and it, as devastating and as catastrophic as it might feel right now, especially when you're looking at the numbers, and especially like with everything going on, but knowing that any hour that you put in now of either improving yourself, building on a project, you're going to be so grateful for yourself.
Yeah.
Next year or in 2 years, you're going to be like, oh, thank God I like forced myself to sit down and work, even if it was just 3 hours a day, because now I don't have 300 hours over my head. You know, I've put in 300 hours at the end of this isolation period that, you know,
Yeah.
and hours pay off, hours and time devoted to projects.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that as a result of this quarantine or self-isolation, there's going to be a lot of great, really innovative ideas that come out of it. I saw a meme today that said something like, Isaac Newton had discovered gravity while in isolation because of the bubonic plague back in the 1600s or something. I don't know if that's true or not, but it was kind of like, yeah, I could see it. You know, I think a lot of people are sitting around, and if you're preparing yourself, like I bought a ton of books. I haven't been able to read any of them because I'm really busy with these video casts, but you know, I'm just ready. I got some stuff to draw, paint, you know, I'm ready to exercise my creative brain. And now is the time, I feel, that empires are made. I'm just ready to lay the foundation for something big right now because, you know, a lot of really famous investors say, you know, buy when there's blood on the streets. I think right now, mentally, there's just so much fear and isolation that I think if you really lay the groundwork now and you use your creative muscle, great things are going to come of it. Now is the time to be creative. Now is the time to put the work in and do it.
Yeah. And dancers who are worried about losing their craft, I would say, having done the PhD, where I was in Oxford, it would take a 4-hour round trip commute to London for a ballet class. So I didn't do it very often. And often I was in a tiny room giving myself bar. I would use the World Ballet Day bars, but now, you know, there's so many classes now available.
Yeah.
Working on the little things, like the little muscles, like the little muscles in my feet, the little muscles in my, like the legs and everything. I was like, I improved so much. Sometimes when you are confined and things are taken away from you, right? You're like, okay, then I can only work on my passe or my feet for like this whole week.
Yeah.
And it becomes freaking really good. Whereas if you're in the normal ballet studio, there's so much going on that you can't focus on the little things. So I think it's an opportunity for a lot of people to become better dancers at the end of this.
Absolutely. I hadn't really even thought about that, but you know, a lot of dancers have injuries throughout their careers. I mean, we all do. It's not like I had many injuries that ever kept me from dancing, but they were always there. They were always nagging me. And so now you've got a few weeks to just focus on that injury, and you can come out of this thing maybe a little bit weaker in some areas, but the nagging injuries that you've been dealing with for a long time are going to be gone, and then you can just excel way ahead because of that. So, I mean, yeah, I think spending this time wisely is really key for everyone.
Yeah. And their body, and another reason is the body is super smart. Like, I think it's normally our doubts and our worries that we haven't, like, there's this weird thing in ballet, like, oh, if you take off a day, it's 2 days off, you know, like, and having taken 9 years for physics, I was like, I don't have 18 years to get back, you know? So it's really much, and then realizing, you know what, the body's very smart. And if I don't bombard it with too many doubts, like if I can stop my brain from doubting it, it will be there. And so for all the dancers who are worried, I would say, look, this time is a time that I promise you can be a better dancer at the end of it, even if you're stuck in a tiny, you know, 1-bedroom flat.
Yeah, absolutely. I always remember as a dancer just trusting my body, because if I thought about what I was doing, if I thought like when I would think too much about the performance I had later tonight, a big show, a Swan Lake or something like that, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is going to be horrible. But if I just go out there and trust my body and let my body do what it knows, your body follows the music. And you just kind of go for it, and things actually turn out really well. So it's easy to say, just believe in yourself, but well, do.
Yeah.
It really does work, and just go for it. You know, prepare yourself, of course, use your time wisely, but trust yourself, you know, and we're resilient people too, you know. It's like sometimes people have had severe injuries, they've gone off for long periods of time, come back and really worked hard and come back even stronger and learned better ways of working. So, I mean, nobody wants to miss 3 weeks of work. Of course not. You know, it's a nightmare to get back into shape after being off for 3-4 weeks, of course. But there's so much you can do and grow and learn from this, you know, use the time wisely. going to keep coming back to that point, but it's just so true.
Yeah. Huh. Okay. Well, we're going to have to do a follow-up where I interview you, because as a principal dancer, I think you've gone, I'd be so curious, like, what is it that made you a principal dancer? The thoughts, like that kind of mentality is something that, I agree, like you need technique and you need perseverance, but there's more to that in order to be the level of principal dancer. And I'd love to pick your brains one day.
Yeah,
so.
For sure. That would be really fun. That would be great.
That'll be for interview volume 2. You guys will have to tune in again.
Yeah, let's just keep doing this because it's a conversation. But so what do you think of, the virus is one thing. We've got to deal with this virus. We've got to self-isolate. A lot of companies and theaters and individuals are going to be suffering for a little while. But what's your take on the global economic fallout from all of this? One thing I've been watching a lot lately is global markets. And I've been following that for a while now, but and how this is going to affect theaters. Several theaters are already having deficits, and now going into this, their deficits are going to plummet. And there hasn't really been much talk from most governments yet about the arts. They're talking about individuals, self-employed people and things like that. But what do you think of the economic fallout for the arts culture in general, globally, or in the UK?
So the arts, look, an ambulance has come to as an alarm for that answer. Look, the arts are never going to go away. We are human, and by nature we are creative and need this outlet and need to absorb, and like the arts just aren't going to go away.
Yeah.
The infrastructure and the practicalities of it might change. Like, I think there's something where people love to be all together. So far, I'd be curious. I think theaters, you kind of come as individuals and then you leave as individuals. Now might be a time where we think, how do we create a theater space that really kind of brings us all together more, rather than as individuals sitting in your little spot that, kind of sidestepping over people as you try to get to your seat.
There is a bit of that in the ballet world, and it's not intentional. Like, I've spoken to several directors in the past couple of days, and I know that the artistic director here in the Netherlands, Ted Branson, the director of the Dutch National Ballet, he's leading a huge effort with directors across the planet to find solutions to the problems. But there is a little bit of an isolation thing when it comes to some arts companies. They don't do a lot of, and this is why I wanted to start Ballet Rising. It's like, I see a lot of what sports teams do in Africa, in Latin America, in developing nations. They have huge camps for kids, and they're spreading awareness for sports and activities like that.
Good, yeah.
They're just really getting into going outside of their city that they represent. FC Barcelona has camps all around the world, not just in Barcelona or just in Spain. Ballet companies really don't do that. Really, you serve the city and the community that you reside in, but they don't really go that far out. There's no cooperation between the Bolshoi, the Paris Opera, and the New York City Ballet about how they're going to fund and help ballet camps in Africa or in Latin America, and help really develop and push the art form globally. There's sort of no entity that really pushes that. And like I said, it's not intentional. These people, like I said, all of these directors would love to do things like that. They're very proactive people in this way, but we still don't see that kind of stuff. And that's where I feel like Ballet Rising might be of help. I would love for this project to sort of be that global voice for ballet that really helps out communities in faraway places that don't have access to teachers and materials and things like that. So, we'll see.
And more than ever. More than ever, but this is a catastrophic time. Like, this is such a disaster. But so many people are now online, and now so many classes are available that people from age 5 to age 80 can follow along these ballet classes without being afraid of being seen or afraid of putting themselves out there. I mean, they're alone in their room, like they can do whatever they want, right?
Yeah.
So in a weird way, I feel like this time is also opening the doors to millions of people it's an opportunity for millions to tap into what ballet is, to gain an appreciation for how hard it is.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, like, people, love ballet, and then when they try it, and then they're like, oh my God, I actually really, really love ballet now. Like, their appreciation level for it goes up 1,000 times once they even just try a couple tandus. So I think this is a fun time, and maybe I think I could see ballet rising. Let's chat. Let's do a huge workshop and try to get thousands of people from around the world to come and join, and just create a community online.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not a summer camp where everyone gets to hang out together, but
at least there's communication, there's camaraderie, there's even if it's online meeting places. I keep thinking about this Association of Ballet Teachers of Nigeria. We've done some articles and interviews with some of the people down in Nigeria who've formed an association, and most of these teachers have never taken a ballet class before in their life. They've only ever seen and studied ballet online on YouTube. And prior to this situation, there really wasn't that much material online for them to see. So this is why they called me. They were like, hey, would you be interested in coming down to Nigeria to teach some classes? I said, absolutely, I'd love to, as soon as I get some money to do it. But now I'm thinking of if these people discovered ballet online via YouTube, imagine now with the coronavirus, the amount of material that's online that people around the world are going to be watching and consuming and being introduced to ballet. I mean, for me, I think that this is a massive floodgate. We have just opened the digital doors for the performing arts, and everyone on the planet who has a mobile device and a Wi-Fi connection has now all the access they need to at least be introduced to the art form and to watch it and consume it, and people are going to discover it in places that had no idea. So I think in the future, this is really going to serve us really well. The leading ballet digital revolution is, and
then people can enter, whereas I think before people would be so afraid to go to a ballet class. They're like, what do I wear? Like, I don't want to look weird. But now it's like, you can stay in your PJs. We can do
and then once they've got their confidence and they feel like they've done a little bit, they want to try it, they want to go and meet other people in person, hopefully they've got access to those facilities as well. But at least the hardest part is just getting people introduced to it, getting them exposed to it. And people do end up, once they try it, actually go, oh, this is kind of nice. It's hard, but it's nice. Good workout, it's fulfilling, it's just nice. I mean, we've both read all the studies on what dance does to the human brain. I mean, it's great,
And the spirit and the heart and the
I mean, it fills you with a sense of accomplishment, and it's good for you physically, it's good for you mentally, it's good for you socially. There's just so many benefits.
And especially now, we're gonna there's gonna be so many people are locked up. Like, the mental aspect of it and what music and moving the body can do is gonna be so important. It's not just being isolated, but we need that blood flow and all of that. So it's going to be so important on multiple levels.
Yeah. Well, I noticed when there was sort of a run on the grocery stores here in the Netherlands, people were taking terrible food. The chips, toilet paper, and pasta were all gone. And I thought, oh, there's going to be some really fat people after this. Come on, people, we need more vegetables. I mean, the canned vegetables were there. I was like, come on, so I was like, people, we got to move. We got to work. We got to move. Otherwise, we're all going to get really fat. And dance class is a great way to do it. Dancing, stretching. I mean, just moving your body and learning the repetition of memorizing things with your brain is one thing. You read a book and you memorize things. Learning and memorizing things with your body is a whole nother level that stimulates your brain in a whole nother way. So memorization through body movement is incredible. And I think that's one of the greatest benefits that dance offers, and people use that. And if you can translate all of that into other areas of your life, you're going to get so far ahead.
Mm-hmm.
That's
yeah, that's for sure. No, it's so spot on. Yeah.
Yeah. It was interesting because you were talking about how when you were studying and not dancing, that everything kind of fell down a little bit. One would think that it would be the opposite.
Yeah.
That, oh, now I've got more time to study, and no.
I just gained 28 hours, right? A week.
Yeah, you would think that would be the opposite.
Yeah.
No, I mean, your brain missed that stimulation and that activity, as well as the physical activity. I mean, that they work hand in hand. It's quite amazing. And
yeah, it's so important.
yeah, I mean, I've felt the same at times as well. When I'm spending too much time on the computer, I just feel a little bit dead, and I get on the computer.
Right. Just like so dead.
But when you've been active, and like now that I was teaching classes on a regular basis at a local dance studio here, just that physical activity of being with people and thinking up combinations to music and stuff like that stimulated my brain a lot more. And so being physically active and coming back to the computer, now I'm like, okay, whoa, let's talk to people and plan out things. It's like, it really works. Getting your body active, your brain active, it really works and translates into other areas as well.
And the emotions, I think tension gets stuck in certain parts of the body, and dance is something that exercises the entire body, right? Yeah. And loosens up all the joints, not just like curls or push-ups.
Yeah, the cardio aspect, the physical, the muscle building aspect, but also the flexibility as well. All of those things combined, it's just such a I don't even know what you'd say, encompasses.
Yeah, all-encompassing
thing. I'm trying to study Dutch right now, and I'm also kind of trying to keep my Spanish up, so I'm losing my English.
I've been there, yeah.
It happens. Yeah, so what after coronavirus, what are your plans? You're going to keep studying, you're going to keep going to flight school, and then you're still dancing. You have some galas and things like that going on, right? Or will
yeah, so everything's postponed at the moment. At the moment, I'm working on this duet with this industrial robotic arm. So it was going to be the Royal Institute of Science in London, which was such an honor. I think that's postponed, and New York Fashion Week postponed, which everything, but it's fine because there's so much tech behind it and so much that we're working on that giving ourselves like a couple extra months to like work on it is fine. So yeah, that's the dance physics front, obviously training daily, because dance always ends up in my life and I'm with this company or that company. And then writing and flight school and NASA and residency. I mean, there's a lot of things that are on my like to-do list. And then what I tend to do is I focus on two of them at one time.
Oh, that's
I'll
smart.
be like, okay. Yeah. Otherwise, I think it gets quite overwhelming.
Yeah, I do that a lot. I try and focus on too many different things, and then I just don't end up doing any of them. If you just tackle a couple at a time, then it's much more in sink your teeth.
I'll write everything down so I know it's there, and then depending on where I am, what the situation is, like with this coronavirus, and it's like, okay, well, performing and focus, that's not really going to be a focus right now. So let's focus on the writing, and let's focus on possibly like online workshops. And that will be the two focuses for the next couple of months. And then I'll swap to, okay, flight school and getting these things on performing and touring.
Yeah.
And then I'll focus on that. So kind of eliminating and adding things depending on.
Yeah. But everybody's just got to keep everything pretty loose for now, because it's just the uncertainty of when all of this is going to lift. And I'm pretty convinced that it's going to lift eventually, but we're still going to have periodic outbreaks and have to probably go back into isolation for shorter periods of time. That's just kind of the nature of how these things work. So I think we're going to be kind of dealing with this over an extended period. That's just my own personal feeling. We're going to be dealing with this for a little while. So yeah, flexibility and adaptability are just going to be the most important things right now for most people moving forward, at least for 2020. Hopefully 2021 starts clearing up, and it's the global economy doesn't just absolutely tank. I mean, well,
but I think, everyone will still be, it'll just be slightly different. Like, I don't, it'll just be, I mean, we all still need to eat, and we all still need art, and we all still need, stuff. So the economy will come up.
Yeah, no, I have no doubt it eventually. I just don't want to, I'm just hoping it doesn't lag too long, go too low for too long, because then a lot of people really suffer. I hope that we can learn a lot of valuable lessons from this moment and pick it back up, and without too much of a hiccup. I mean, once in a while, these global downturns are not only inevitable, but sometimes there's positive things that come out of them. We do learn, and it's like falling as a kid. You learn. A couple of on your knees, and you get back up, and you learn how to do it better.
You're like, oh, glass, not supposed to run into that. Right?
Yeah, bad. Yeah. We'll just have to see. And I'm really positive about some of the economic things moving forward. I think that I keep touching on the fact that this digital revolution for the performing arts is going to be a big thing. We just have to learn how to monetize it, and I think there are new technologies out there that are going to really be pervasive in this kind of way, that are going to allow people to monetize web content in new ways that really allows the creator to keep more value, cutting out a lot of middlemen and things like that. But, this is all technology that's still a bit nascent. We'll have to monitor it as it develops. But
But maybe opportunity, like if dancers are getting paid from government or subsidized, like figure out what is that second passion, like what are the, I think it's hard for people to know the dream job, because now jobs change all the time, but like what are things that you want on that list? Like do you like community? Do you want a project in which you're giving, teaching people or projecting, or is it you want to be working behind the scenes, or like, and then figuring out what I call them vibes, but like what that vibe is that your dream is, and just kind of explore. And now's a time where, when you're dancing in company full time, you're just so exhausted at the end of the day. Like even writing an email is like, oh my God, I can't even.
Dancers are notorious for being terrible at communicating. You just get on your computer and
but it's because you're just so exhausted. You're like, I can't. Hi, like.
I know.
It's just, dancers get such a bad rep for being dumb, but it's like, you be physically this exhausted and trying to think, like, good luck. So.
But I find, I was talking to Chelsea Kiefer, who's a soloist with Ballet West, yesterday, and I was telling her, because she's got a podcast and lots of things going on, and I feel like dancers nowadays are way more entrepreneurial than they used to be. Like my generation, it was like you just did ballet, and you do ballet, and then when you're done with ballet, maybe you teach or choreograph or something like that. But I find now this generation is they're doing a lot of really creative and interesting things, and thinking more business wise, and thinking a little bit more outside the box. And I think that
and I think often out of necessity. I think nowadays, right, like the jobs are much less, they're not so many jobs, and out of necessity, I mean, I've often been in the position where, like, I've auditioned for a couple companies, haven't gotten in, and just being like, okay, what we're gonna, and then I get fed up with just being like, love me, and be like, okay, I want to put it back into my control a little bit. Like, what do I need to do, right? And then that's when the entrepreneurial mindset kind of comes about, is when a lot of things are pulled out from under you. You just have to be like, okay, we're just gonna have to think differently.
Well, if you study a lot of these great entrepreneurs, all these great big business leaders who built empires from scratch, from nothing, if you learn about their mentality and how they they worked and lived. A lot of them really scraped by for a long time down in the doldrums. You know, there's so many famous stories of major people who founded these big international, multinational corporations. They were, you know, sleeping on friends' couches, you know, couch surfing with people, broke out of their minds for a long time. People do go through this period. And I think something just happened. Well,
Sorry,
anyway.
I knew I want to make sure that was, yeah.
I think it stopped recording for a second. Well, I'll tap these two together. So yeah, a lot of these entrepreneurs really had to go through the courage, you know, to get to where they are today. So, you know, I think a lot of dancers will look at this the same way, and hopefully really look at the silver lining and think outside the box and think more entrepreneurial and yeah, like we keep saying, use this time to your advantage, because now is just this time right now is golden. Now is when entrepreneurs are made. So yeah, get to it.
Yeah.
So when do you think we will, what year do you think we'll see the first ballerina in space?
Okay,
How far away are we?
I think just a couple years.
Yeah.
I mean, now I don't know. I wonder what their timeline is, but you're right. Like Elon Musk's like first commercial, the first commercial flight was bought by a Japanese billionaire called, if I'm pronouncing his name right, Yusaku, and he wants to take 8 artists up around space.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I know. So I think one of those artists should be a ballet dancer. Just say
absolutely should be.
I mean, I could just volunteer right now.
Can I be your campaign
dancing
manager?
So I don't know how to but so I think I mean, I would hope if they're taking 8 artists, they remember to bring up a dancer.
Yeah, so if a billionaire came to you today and said, yeah, we're going to outer space in 2 years, we want to take a dancer, what would you do in outer space? Like, what would be your moment? Like, would you choreograph a ballet? Would you it'd be really interesting to see a ballet in 0 gravity. I guess you wouldn't really need point shoes, but
yeah, wouldn't it be amazing? But also maybe it's like, what is the future of the point shoe look like, right?
Yeah.
Does the future of the point shoe in space have suction cups? I don't know. It's like magnetic, right? Like, you know, but that's the fun thing. It's like, are they 3D printed and got suction cups and need magnetic things to like attach to the walls? I don't know.
That's so cool. I mean, imagine, I can just see a lot of choreographers watching this interview right now and their brains are going, whoa, the creative wheels are turning, like, wow, 0 gravity, magnets, you know, you name it.
To those choreographers, can I audition?
Yeah. I think any choreographer right now would just be absolutely thrilled to know you and think of the possibility of one day choreographing the first ballet in outer space.
Be fun.
Yeah, well, a couple of years ago when I was dancing with the Royal New Zealand Ballet, there was a girl in the company down there, Maddie Graham. She had gone down to Antarctica with a choreographer, and they choreographed the first ballet in Antarctica. And I was so jealous. Oh, that was... Can you imagine? They spent like 3 weeks at a science station down in Antarctica choreographing a ballet out on the ice, and they filmed it.
Wow.
Oh, just that was so cool. I want to interview them to talk about it. You know. Yeah. On the idea.
But they're amazing things for, you know, dancers. I feel like aren't aware, but like for instance, CERN, Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland, has artists in residence. You know.
Do they?
So.
No, I had no idea. I didn't know that.
All right. Well, let's chat. Let's do something there.
Oh yeah, I mean.
Let's apply.
I've never studied science, but I always do find it fascinating.
But that's the beauty. I think that's what they need is people. I find that actually the more science I know, the more I want to collaborate with someone who doesn't know, like all the nitpicky things. There we go. Because I'm like, I'm kind of, you know, I'm kind of stuck with the rules of, oh, it's supposed to be this way. Whereas I think also dancers, ballet dancers, it's good for them to collaborate with people who aren't ballet dancers, because you get insight of what is appealing and what isn't appealing, and what's, you know, it's constantly something where you want to be bestowing an emotion or something, and having an audience member who doesn't know what a pointed foot is.
Yeah. Well,
it's good to get the feedback.
That's why I just fell in love so many years ago with the idea of travel. I mean, when you're traveling around the world and going into new cultures where people don't think like you do, they don't act like you do, they don't look like you do, they don't talk like you do. They have naturally very different ideas, and even a simple subject like I don't know, how to grow a plant, you know, they will look at how that's done in a totally different way than what you're used to back where you're from. And I think that's the most incredible thing, when you have people who have incredibly different perspectives on something, when they come together and discuss and create and play with ideas, that's where those explosions of creativity come from. I mean, if you look at history, some of the times where the greatest inventions happen were at a time when there was a lot of people moving around and coming together in various ways, you know, to form these explosions of ideas and stuff. So, I mean, it is great to have like these conversations and projects that are so multidisciplinary, and just to see how ideas get bounced around and which ones stick and which ones end up just going, wow, you know, revolution. It's exciting stuff, you know. It's just, I would love to get into a room full of some scientists, some business leaders, some artists,
politicians,
you know, just and see what we can do, and just the crazy ideas that we can come up with. If everyone's got the right mindset of let's build something together, let's be creative, let's be cooperative, amazing things can happen. And So is there anything else? Is there something you'd really like to tell the world right now? I mean, just about, you know, your feelings about the circumstances that we're in, and just what would you like to say?
Well, I think just a recap of, you know, it is a crazy time. A lot of things are changing. There's a lot of uncertainty. And you know, I would say, like, make sure that any fear, any doubts, anxiety doesn't make people just, you know, want to just stay in bed, but like really kind of, you know, embrace that fear, make it, or whatever it is, make it give you energy, and just know that any input, like any hours that you're putting into work and like improving and reading and watching different videos and interviews, that it will help and pay off. Like, you know, it will pay off at the end of this. You'll look back and be like, oh, you know, it did pay. Like, even though all of those days, like that hour a day that I was putting in didn't feel like anything, it did pay off. And the dancers are the best to know that, because, you know, training is so, we know that like you have to put in the hour a day, or, you know, you have to train every day, and later on you see the improvement. But during that hour, you're like, I suck.
Patience. Work does pay off.
Patience, right?
It doesn't pay off immediately, but it does pay off if you just do it, get to it. And as we keep saying, now is the time. Well, great. Well, thank you so much for being on here. It was great to talk to you again, but I'm just glad that you were able to share so many of your experiences and ideas, and you're such an incredibly inspirational person to many of us, and myself included. We're just like, wow, the things that you've accomplished are just really spectacular. So keep it up, and I look forward to speaking to you again.
Yeah, thank you so much, Casey. Likewise, back to you.
Take care. Much love.
Alrighty. See ya.
Ciao.